Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 41. Reluctant Partings. Come, come. Let's eat, let's eat. Within the side hall of Hwaking Palace, lanterns were blazing with light, which shone on the flurries of snow in the valley as their shadows entered the doorway. A huge fish was currently swaying back and forth in front of the light. Stop staring, Hung Jun smiled. Come eat dinner. The Carpiao had spent a long time looking at the koi on the lantern, before it finally reluctantly clambered down from its position on the set of drawers. Li Jinglong was personally pouring out the wine for each of his subordinates, and he smiled as he said, although we've only known each other for 2 months, it feels like we've actually known each other for much longer. There's a saying that people who experience life and death together must have been destined in their previous lives to have their fates be entangled together in their next. Everyone hurried to humbly be polite. We dare not, it was Zhenqi putting in the effort. After Li Jinglong finished pouring the wine, he lifted his cup and said, I hope that such a disaster will never befall Chang'an again. May the heavens watch over my great Tang. May the heavens watch over my great Tang. The 4 people and the Carpiao lifted their cups at the same time, emptying them in one go. Li Jinglong then called for everyone to eat. Mo-Rijin grinned. It's only been 2 months? It feels like it's been a lifetime. We joined the exorcism department on the 18th day of the 9th month, Chu Yongxi chuckled. I still remember the way the place looked, all overgrown and desolate. I almost thought that I had entered the wrong door. Hung Jun smiled. That day, when Zhenqi came crashing in, all of your faces turned green with fright, do you all remember that? They all began to laugh. That day, when Li Jinglong had first entered the exorcism department, A Tai was playing his lute, Mo-Rijin was plucking his bowstring, Chu Yongxi and Hung Jun were banging on bowls to the side, while the Carpiao was dancing in a basin. That sight had almost frightened Feng Chongqing into having a permanent dark shadow in his heart. Li Jinglan said amusedly, to tell you the truth, that day it was I who had been presumptuous, I shouldn't have attacked out of the blue. Mo-Rijin then, with great vividness, began to talk about the little fox that they had let go, and he couldn't resist teasing Hung Jun. Hung Jun responded petulantly, I really didn't. I just couldn't bear to see such a small, cute animal. Chu Yongxi said, speaking of this, I have a few paintings for you guys, how about you all take a look? And saying this, Chu Yongxi turned and pulled out a few pieces of paper from behind him, handing one to each person as he said to the Carpiao, since you're constantly soaking in the water, let Hung Jun keep yours ba. Each of them looked at their pieces and saw that the lines and colors of Chu Yongxi's paintings were extremely vivid, with the subjects being lifelike depictions of scenes from their daily lives. The moment that Li Jinglong had first entered the exorcism department, the group of them sitting in Nightingale of the Spring Dawn in Pingkong Li, separated by a screen, the scene in front of Daming Palace when they were exorcising a Yao, all of them sitting together facing the Crown Prince in Jinhu Luo, under the ginkgo tree within the royal gardens waiting for an imperial decree. And that moment today when they had kicked their horses into a gallop as they raced like the wind from Chang'an to Mt. Li. I want this one. The Carpiao liked the very last one. It's not quite the same as landscape paintings, Li Jinglong said, delighted. My grandfather always disapproved of me drawing things too realistically, Chu Yongxi said. This kind of painting, most people wouldn't want it. I like it. Hung Jun loved his so much that he couldn't bear to part with it. He rolled the painting into a tube and said, when we go back, we can mount them and hang them up. When the group looked at the paintings, the room suddenly sank into silence, and Hung Jun seemed to feel a strange atmosphere come over them. Mo-Rijin said, I also have a little something to give to you guys. Saying that, Mo-Rijin pulled out 3 small bone flutes that he split up amongst them, saying, these are whistles made from the phalanxes of the Wolf King. You only need to blow these in the territory of the Shiwei to summon the people of my tribe, they can guide your way, provide you with meals, or kill your enemies. No matter the request, we would never object. Those bone flutes were extremely intricate, and when blown the sounds they made were harmonious and bright. There was even a red string wrapped around each of them. Compared to the jade beads, Hung Jun loved these even more, to the point of not wanting to let go of them. "Let me also give you all something," Hung Jun said. "How about we take apart this bracelet of jade beads?" Everyone hurried to stop Hung Jun from acting on it, but Hung Jun had already torn apart the string of the bracelet, and the beads scattered all over the floor. Li Jinglong put a hand to his forehead. Chu Yongxi said, "These beads can buy half of a Woyang already, but you, split them apart just like that." Hung Jun said, no problem, I have a lot more at home. There's a bunch of these soaking in the fish tank at home. When the time comes I can find a few more to string together." Everyone. There were a total of 12 beads on that string, so Hung Jun gave each of them 2. He also gave the Carpiao 2 beads, to which the Carpiao remarked, "I haven't yet become a dragon, but am I already starting to toy with pearls? You keep hold of my share for me ba. How about we make Zhao Zilong a necklace with those and the Buddhist relic, and hang it below its gills?" That was not a bad idea, so Hung Jun delightedly began to make the accessory for the Carpiao. The Carpiao had drunk a few cups of wine, and it had lost to the strength of the liquor. It stumbled around, before with a few totters back and forth like a pendulum, it slumped to one side, dead drunk. "Come, let's drink another cup." Just as Li Jinglong was about to pour out the wine, Mo Rijin snatched it over, saying, Let me. "Zhenji, this cup is to salute you," A Tai said. Hung Jun followed them in lifting their cups to salute Li Jinglong, who then said, "Your wound just healed, don't drink too much. I'll drink this cup for you." Li Jinglong then downed 2 cups in succession, before saying, "Eat ba, everyone, feel free to eat as you wish." So, they all began to take from the dishes that they wanted. Li Jinglong took a single bite before the atmosphere once again grew solemn. "What's wrong?" Even Hung Jun felt it. "Nothing much." Chu Yongxi smiled cheerfully as he looked at Hung Jun, saying, "Hung Jun, you're a good kid." Li Jinglong let out a long sigh before putting down his chopsticks, saying, "If you have anything to say, then say it, I'm listening." Chu Yongxi, Mo Rijin, and A Tai all looked at each other, and a beat later Hung Jun asked, "What's the matter with you all?" Mo Rijin also sighed, saying, "Zhenji, Hung Jun, to tell you guys the truth, I need to go." "Why?" Hung Jun's voice held surprise and disappointment that he couldn't disguise. Li Jinglong didn't respond. He only quietly looked at Mo Rijin, before glancing at Chu Yongxi. Chu Yongxi said, "I also need to go, Zhenji, Hung Jun." A Tai smiled melancholically. "You Han people often say that in this world, even the finest banquets must come to an end. I also need to go back, Zhenji, Hung Jun." "Hung Jun." Li Jinglong was silent. You guys," Hung Jun thought that he had heard wrong. "Why? After so many troubles, we finally got rid of the Yao King, can't you all stay in Chang'an? Chang'an is so nice, there's food, there's entertainment." "Hung Jun," the Carpiao called out. Mo Rijin let out a sigh and said, "To tell you the truth, Zhenji, before I came, I took upon myself a duty. To find the white deer." Li Jinglong asked. Hung Jun was extremely surprised. How did Li Jinglong know? As soon as the Carpiao saw Hung Jun's expression, it said, "Are you dumb?" Remember that question that Mo Rijin asked on the star observation platform. With this, Hung Jun finally remembered, and he said, "But Chang'an doesn't have any traces of the white deer that you spoke of, so how about waiting for me to ask Xingxiang and Chongming about it?" "No," Mo Rijin responded. "The white deer is the god of the dream realm who protects the long night, she's not a Yao. Since 120 years ago, she's disappeared from amongst the tribes of the grasslands. I have inherited the power of the grey wolf, and I need to find her." I came to Chang'an because I suspected that the Yao King had detained her. But now, looking at it, it seems that she's not in the Central Plains at all. So from now on, I will need to keep searching. What will you do if you can't find her? Li Jinglong asked. The power of the white deer is like your heart lamp, Mo Rijin said. She races through the dreams of every person, driving away their nightmares. But if she's missing, then the power of evil dreams will have no way to be cleansed, and the resentment in this realm will grow heavier and heavier. Li Jinglong let out a long breath. Hung Jun furrowed his brow. Where are you going to search? Mo Rijin replied, after leaving Chang'an, I'll head all the way down south, before heading to Shizhong to look. Zhenji, everything in this world has an essence. The resentment of the world, monsters, yaos and demons, deities and divine beasts, everything is interconnected in unseen ways. One thing controls another, one falls for another to rise, and the beat of a butterfly's wings can cause a whole tornado. Li Jinglong lifted his hand, indicating that he understood and there was no need to continue. The room once again fell into silence. My mission is to track down that black Jiao Xiaoyu that escaped from underneath the dragon-subduing tower, Chu Yangxi said to the group. 200 years ago, it consumed quite a few of the Jiao tribe, and after doubling its strength, it escaped from the bottom of the tower and began a conflict with the Phoenix tribe. An icy chill overtook Hung Jun's heart. As he recalled Chang Ming's words, he couldn't help the sense of unease he felt. Afterwards, the Phoenix tribe lost, Chu Yangxi said. They retreated from the human realm, and Xiaoyu hid itself within the Central Plains region. Before I came, I thought that it had become the Chang'an Yao King, but with the situation now, it seems it hasn't. That's also the concern I have, Li Jinglong responded. So you're planning to search for the whereabouts of Xiaoyu? What happens after you find it? Chu Yangxi replied, I'll contain it and reseal it within the dragon-subduing tower. Where is the dragon-subduing tower? Hung Jun asked. The Carpiao said, if I accidentally became a dragon, I wouldn't also be captured and thrown in, right? It's in a place where none of you can enter, Chu Yangxi said. It was built by the ancient immortal Guangquanzi, and though its name has dragon subduing in it, in reality, what the tower traps are extremely violent, cruel, bloodthirsty Jiao. The past generations of the Chu family have all been the watchers of the dragon subduing tower. In the silence, Chu Yangxi sighed. I originally thought that it had come to Chang'an and become the Yao King, but I hadn't expected that the Yao King that rules over this place was instead a nine-tailed fox. So, Chu Yangxi smiled bitterly. Finding Xiaoyu's whereabouts is like trying to fish up a needle in the ocean, so I'm afraid that I may have to part with everyone for a long time. Li Jinglong was silent for a moment, before he said to Atai, then how about you? Atai answered, that night, when His Majesty sent for me in Jinhuoluo, he promised to lend me Kurta County along the ancient Wuzhen Road, so that I may gather troops there. To accomplish this, he issued me a personally written decree, you guys want to look. This was the first time Mo Rijin had heard of it as well, and he frowned. The Kurta region is too dangerous. The Xiongnu people appear there frequently, so how are you supposed to establish a foothold there? I still have my knights, Atai said to everyone. Plus, no matter how I put it, I am still a descendant of the Persian royal family, he, and with this, he waved his fan, answering, normal Xiongnu, how could they be considered our opponents? Li Jinglong nodded his head, saying, that night, after returning, why did you not bring it up at all? Atai answered, Zhenji, I didn't want to bring you and the group any more trouble. I was very grateful for everyone taking such good care of me these past days. Saying this, Atai took a half step back, and very formally and properly, he lowered himself and bowed to the group. Hung Jun hurried up front to lift him up again, and for a time everyone could only sigh. Leaving is the best plan, Chu Yangxi said. The Chang'an Yao King has already been eliminated, and if the likes of us linger here for too long, I'm afraid that we might arouse the dread of the emperor and the officials of the court. Since the exorcism department can take care of Yao, we would also be able to. No need to say any more, Li Jinglong interrupted. When Mo Rijin observed Li Jinglong's expression, he understood that the emperor had already vocalized that fear. Will you guys come back? Li Jinglong asked. After finding the white deer, I'll take her back to the grasslands, Mo Rijin answered. If we pass by Chang'an, I would like to request that you, Zhenqi, officiate our marriage. Li Jinglong began to smile, but that smile held a trace of bitterness. Chu Yangxi said, after taking in the Black Jiao, perhaps I'll still need to stand guard over at West Lake. After all, that's the only entrance and exit to and from the dragon subduing tower. But coming now and then to visit Chang'an should be possible, and I welcome you all to come at any time to visit me. A Tai added on, my wish to reclaim my homeland might never be fulfilled in my lifetime, but if there is a day where I can't keep up with it anymore, then perhaps I'll only be able to come find you, brothers. Li Jinglong was amused by this. I, however, hope that you won't come again. Everyone began to laugh, and as they laughed, their eyes all gradually turned red. Li Jinglong let out a sigh before turning his eyes away to avoid their gazes, saying to Hung Jun, what about you? Hung Jun was still sunk in shock, and for a long time he didn't react. When he was asked this question, he subconsciously said, I. Before Hung Jun had left Yaojin Palace, he actually didn't want to leave, but Chongming and Qingxiang had given him 3 tasks to accomplish. One was to return the heart lamp to its original owner, the second was to exorcist the Chang'an Yao King, and the third was to discover the truth behind his origins. Now, he didn't know if the task with the heart lamp had been accomplished or not. The Chang'an Yao King had been dealt with, however, and he had figured out the general gist about his origins. All he had left was to find the person who killed his father. I will probably stay for a little longer. Hung Jun fixed his gaze on Li Jinglong. He suddenly felt that this series of partings, to Li Jinglong, was really too cruel. Though it could be said that meetings and partings were like flowing clouds and that fate was fleeting and prone to change at any moment, Li Jinglong seemed to not have many friends. As soon as the exorcism department dispersed and Chang'an had no more Yao, what could Li Jinglong even do? He could only wait at home, waiting for their return. When he heard these words, Mo Rijin began to smile. Hung Jun, then you'd better take good care of Zhenqi. A Tai said, how about we give Zhenqi over to you? You are, after all, a prince. Whenever you decide to go home, take him along with you. Chu Yangxi immediately said, that's it. It's settled then. Li Jinglong. Hung Jun was afraid that Li Jinglong would be too saddened, so he said, all right. It's settled. Li Jinglong said, I haven't nodded yet. You guys, every one of you, leaving just like this. Do you all even have any conscience? You still have Hung Jun, Chu Yangxi smiled. That's right, you still have Hung Jun, A Tai and Mo Rijin echoed, before saluting Li Jinglong with another cup of wine. Without another word, Li Jinglong took that cup and drank it. Leaving is all right, Li Jinglong said. If one day, Chang'an is once again troubled by Yao, how am I supposed to find you guys? Mo Rijin said, the power of dreams is everywhere. If there is a day where Chang'an is once again filled with Yao energy, I will definitely return. A Tai said, give your letter to a merchant caravan heading for the western regions and have them bring it to Kurta. If you need anything, no matter if I shatter every bone in my body, I will do what you need me to. Chu Yangxi answered, Zhenqi, if you send a letter through the courier system to the 10,000 Willow Estate in the West Lake region of Hangzhou, my family members will naturally be able to contact me. Li Jinglong lowered his head to look into his wine cup, sighing. From the day that I met all of you guys, I knew that sooner or later, there would be a day where you all would leave. I just hadn't expected it to be so quick. It's my fault. What is your fault? Mo Rijin smiled. If it wasn't for Zenshi, then how would all of us have banded together? It's my fault for not properly cherishing the days that we all spent together. Li Jinglong raised his gaze to look at the others as he said slowly, my one wish is that in this life, we'll have another chance to see each other. As soon as these words were spoken, Chu Yongxi, Mo Rijin, and A Tai's eyes all held tears in them, and Hung Jun almost cried. I don't have anything good to give to you all, Li Jinglong said quietly, lowering his head and rubbing the space between his brows with his long, slender fingers. When the time comes, you all take the horses ba. If you all leave them in the exorcism department, I wouldn't let anyone else ride them anyways. And saying this, he smiled again. They all then sank into silence as each of them nodded slightly. How about I play a song for everyone to listen to? A Tai hurried to suggest, before turning his head and picking up his barbet lute. He didn't wait for them to reply before he plucked the strings a few times. In the morning rain and light dust of Wei City, the inn was as green as the green willows. I urge the gentleman to have another cup of wine, as going east out of Yang Pass, there are no old friends. This piece, the 3 refrains of Yang Pass, was one that Hung Jun heard often, but every time before this, he had only listened to it as he would any musical piece. It wasn't until tonight that he seemed to hear a little bit of melancholy, a touch of wistfulness. The sound of A Tai's lute flowed through the dark night. As the 3 refrains of Yang Pass drew to a close, Mo Rijin said, can you not make this into a funeral procession? All right, A Tai said. I'll switch a piece. Chi Le Chuan, at the foot of the Yin Mountains, the sky is so vast and blue, the wilderness is boundless too, when the winds blow, the grass bends low, cattle and sheep will show. This night, they all feasted, and after singing the 3 refrains of Yang Pass and A Night on the Flower-Filled, Moonlit, Spring River, he sang, can't you see, the waters of the yellow river come from the sky, and as they flow towards the sea they do not turn back. The head of sorrowful white hair that faces you in the mirror at the head of the bed was once black strands in the morning but has turned snowy in the twilight, and afterwards was, the wind that gusts over thousands of li sends off the autumn geese, and faced with such a beautiful scene, you drink it in from Xietiao Tower. Teacher, your works have the style of Jianan, but at times you also reveal the delicacy of Little Xie's poetry. Taking a blade and slashing the water with it only leads to the water flowing more vigorously, and raising a cup of wine to dispel sorrows only causes the sorrows to grow more sorrowful. When the 4th gang came, everyone was so drunk that they weren't even aware of their surroundings anymore. They were laying down on the ground, leaning up against a surface, slumped over the table, or collapsed in a corner. The carpiao laid on its side on the table, and now and then, its tail would wriggle up and down a few times. After a long time, Mo Rijin was the first to open his eyes. He rubbed his temples. After opening his eyes that were red with drunkenness, he quietly sat up and let out a sigh. Brothers, we will meet again someday, Mo Rijin said in a low voice. He slowly rose to his feet, kneeling on one knee in front of the door, his left hand pressed against the right side of his chest as he bowed in a salute, before turning and leaving. Not long after, Chu Yongxi and A Tai also woke. Are we going now? Chu Yongxi mouthed. A Tai nodded. At the time of parting, the strongest emotion was always sorrow, it would be better to disappear without a sound, leaving just like that. At the 4th gang, at the foot of Mt. Li, A Tai, Mo Rijin, and Chu Yongxi reined in their horses to a stop in front of the military road. A Tai said, I'm heading west. I'm going to the northeast, Mo Rijin said. I'm going down south, Chu Yongxi said. Brothers, with that, we'll say goodbye here. The sky is vast, and our roads are far, but we will meet again someday. Mo Rijin said, the mountains are endless, and the seas are boundless, but there will be a day when we meet again. A Tai smiled. Hi mi ho bye. I will miss you guys. Actually, I've always wanted to ask this for a long time now, Chu Yongxi said. Hai mi haubi, what exactly does that mean? A Tai said, this is a greeting that Persians use when they reunite with their dearest friends. Ah! It's you again, my dear, close friend. Morigin chuckled. When we first saw each other, you also said that. But at that time, we were all complete strangers, so there is no way we could have been close friends. A Tai looked towards the vast night sky. Above the plains, the 7 stars of the Big Dipper twinkled from the horizon. From that time, I just knew, A Tai suddenly replied, that there would come a day where we all would become close friends. Because of fate, what seemed like a fleeting meeting turned out to actually be something destined in our lives, so why not say so then? Jia dash. A Tai mounted his horse and left, hurtling into the dark night. And with a Jie, Chu Yangxi also turned his horse's head, taking the military road that led south. Morigin turned his head back to look towards Mt. Li, before turning his head around to look at one of the saddled horses behind him, saying quietly, Zhenji, Hung Jun, you two stay safe, Jie. The 3 steeds each turned in their own direction, vanishing into the depths of the plains. End chapter. Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 42. Scorching Phoenix Plume. In the side hall on Mt. Li, in a room blazing with light, Li Jinglong slumped on the table, sound asleep. Hung Jun lay on his side by Li Jinglong, his posture like a carefree, innocent child. Li Jinglong lifted his head, his eyes bloodshot, taking in the scattered cups and plates on the table with a glance, before turning his head to look at Hung Jun beside him. It's just the 2 of us left, Li Jinglong said in a small voice, before raising a hand and gently sweeping it through Hung Jun's bangs. Come, get up, Li Jinglong said with great difficulty as he managed to lift Hung Jun in a horizontal carry. He had Hung Jun lean his head against his own arm. Hung Jun's body was covered with Li Jinglong's outer robe, and Li Jinglong carried him, walking barefoot through the long hallways, pulling open the sliding door to Hung Jun's room with one foot. He carried him in, and as he panted from the effort, he lowered Hung Jun down on the bed before tucking him in. Who? Li Jinglong sat in front of Hung Jun's bed, his eyes filled with hurt. Right then, he didn't want to go back to his own room, so he fell asleep with his clothes on, right there at the ground in front of the bed. That night, Hung Jun had a strange dream. In his dream, someone had placed a lamp by his side that illuminated the long night. The warm light of the lamp stayed by his side the entire time, but outside the window not too far away, a blazing, fiery red sun cast its light in. The light of the rising sun warmed his body, as if it was calling out to him. It was the 5th gang when Hung Jun suddenly woke up. The instant he opened his eyes, the light of the red sun instantly retreated. Only the lamp by his side still shone on. How long had he slept? Hung Jun let out a long breath, before turning his head and looking to the side of the bed, which Li Jinglong was currently leaning crookedly against, sunk in a deep sleep. Hung Jun sat up, he was thirsty and wanted to drink some water, but after taking a few steps in the room, he came to a stop in front of the window. He didn't really know why, but he pushed open the window and looked outside. On that snowy night, the outside was extremely bright. On the precipice directly facing the window stood a person. Hung Jun. That man stood tall in front of the steep cliff, not moving even a single muscle. Hung Jun put down his bowl of water and closed the window, before shrugging on an outer robe and tiptoeing out into the corridor. He passed through the corridor, coming to the back door of the side hall. As he pushed open the door, the silhouette of the person standing on that towering precipice grew somewhat clearer. It was a man. He walked towards the precipice along the suspension bridge. The leaves of the parasol trees at the top of the cliff had already almost all fallen. As the snowflakes danced, only the area around that man was clear of any snow, revealing the bare ground of the precipice. To the side of the cliff, it just so happened that Chang'an covered by the night could be seen in the distance. Hung Jun trembled uncontrollably as he slowly walked up that cliff, only to see that man's head of red hair like glowing embers, his body draped in a golden red royal robe, 2 tail feathers the color of flame hanging at his waist, so long that they touched the ground. The royal robe for his upper body was loosely drooping around his waist, revealing his bare upper half, and that pale, naked chest and abdomen was filled with power. Dad! Hung Jun couldn't believe his eyes. Chong Ming slowly turned around, taking in Hung Jun, before his eyebrows furrowed faintly. Just as Hung Jun was about to come forward, Chong Ming seemed to grow instantly enraged, and his breathing quickened as he said, "You! What happened to your ear?" Hung Jun's ear was still wrapped in bandages. He subconsciously moved to cover it, but without giving him any time to explain, Chong Ming grabbed his wrist and dragged him to one side, making him stand up straight as Chong Ming undid the bandages. It hurt, and Hung Jun cried out, "Dad! A little gentler. How did you get this injury?" Chong Ming said, almost roaring in anger. Silently, Hung Jun stared at him. Chong Ming was impatient with worry, and he barely managed to calm down. He lifted his left hand, shining with a red light. A phoenix's cry faintly issued forth, and he pressed that hand on the side of Hung Jun's face, his fingers spreading out as he gestured in a circle. With that, Hung Jun's wound rapidly healed until it was as good as new. "Isn't it healed now?" Hung Jun said, smiling. As soon as Chong Ming had seen him, he was almost angered to death by this little scoundrel. It was only after a long while that he managed to calm down. Hung Jun said, "When I was little, didn't I often trip and scrape my knees bloody? Can that be compared to this?" Chong Ming said angrily. Hung Jun smiled as he looked at Chong Ming, and his eyes were a bit wet as he asked, "How are you here?" Chong Ming breathed deeply as he looked at Hung Jun. Under that scrutiny, Hung Jun felt a little afraid, but he had also missed him too much. He only wanted to get close to Chong Ming, so he reached a hand out to tug at the belt of phoenix tail feathers around his waist. Chong Ming, almost unnoticeably, waved aside Hung Jun's hand. When Hung Jun went to tug at it again, this time Chong Ming didn't move, allowing him to tug them. Chong Ming responded, "I've come to take you home." Hung Jun. "But those 3 tasks of mine, I haven't finished them yet," Hung Jun said. "No matter," Chong Ming said coldly. Hung Jun then added, "Li Zhenji, in the exorcism department, there'll only be him left." "Who?" Chong Ming suddenly let off a powerful aura of killing intent as he asked darkly, "You mean that mortal behind you?" Hung Jun swiftly turned his head around and spotted Li Jinglong standing underneath a parasol tree. He said, "Zhenji, you're also awake?" "Dad, this is Li Jinglong. My superior officer." Li Jinglong had suddenly woken in the night, and he hadn't yet had a chance to tidy up. He wore a thin inner robe and a martial robe that he had hurriedly draped over himself. The martial robe fluttered in the breeze, and he held the sword of wisdom in one hand. In this moment, he gently placed his left hand on top of his sword-wielding right hand, saying, "Jinglong salutes uncle. Are you leaving or not?" Chong Ming didn't even look at Li Jinglong as he directed that question to Hung Jun. "Dad," Hung Jun said. "Listen to me." Hung Jun tugged that tail feather of Chong Ming, relentlessly pulling it towards him. Chong Ming was tugged along until he came over, and he lifted a hand to hit him. In the instant that he raised his hand, Li Jinglong grew nervous, but Hung Jun had long since become used to Chong Ming's all bark and no bite attitude. He took advantage of the situation and leapt onto him, clambering onto his back. "You get down!" Chong Ming said angrily, before finally plucking Hung Jun off, forcing him to stand up straight. Li Jinglong said uneasily, "Hung Jun." Hung Jun smiled. "Dad, I carelessly gave the heart lamp to the wrong person, it's within Li Jinglong's body now." Chong Ming said in a deep voice, "If it's wrong, then it's wrong." Hung Jun added, "I also drove out the Yao King." The atmosphere of the human realm has long since become foul. I will not return to Chang'an, Chongming interrupted simply and crudely. I've said exactly the same thing before in Yaojin Palace. Do not indulge in such wishful thinking. The huge burden in Li Jinglong's heart finally fell to the ground. Hung Jun then added, I still haven't figured out who murdered my. Your heart has gone wild, Chongming said. I understand. You're finding these excuses just because you do not wish to give up luxury and part with your desires, fine. Hung Jun's words suddenly dried up, but Chongming continued, it is what it is. Today, Qing Xiang told me that you would not be willing to come home with me, but it was me who insisted, and so I took such an unnecessary step. From now on, you stay in the human realm Be like your father, properly enjoy this dazzling mortal world. Dad, it's not like that, Hung Jun hurried to explain. Chongming said darkly, then what? Explain it, then. Hung Jun stammered out, Chang'an is very nice. There's food, entertainment, and the exorcism department also has space, and there's also a parasol tree. If you stayed with me just a few days, you would understand, and plus, I also wish. When Hung Jun got to this point, he suddenly understood. No matter how much he talked, it was of no use, he was no longer that naive youth who had left the Taihang Mountains that day long ago. Back then, when he had seen chicks leave their nests in the forest only to never return, he was filled with confusion, and he went forth to ask Chongming. Chongming had never given a direct answer to any of his questions, and it wasn't until now that Hung Jun began to gradually understand why. Yes, Hung Jun answered. I am attached to this red dust, but I can't bear to lose you. Can you let Zhenqi come with us? Chongming said, will you choose the person behind you, or will you choose me? I will not let a mortal take even half a step into Yaojin Palace. Uncle, Li Jinglong hurried to say, when Hung Jun was in Chang'an, not a single day went by when he didn't think of you. Young people all wish to see the world. Will you choose your red dust, or will you choose me? From the beginning until the end, Chongming had not responded to any of Li Jinglong's words. Hung Jun sucked in a deep breath before closing his eyes, saying, Dad, I can't bear to lose you. If I had to choose. At this moment, in this very second, in the depths of Hung Jun's heart, perhaps he had already made a choice. He turned his head back, his glance filled with longing and sorrow as he looked towards Li Jinglong. Li Jinglong replied, you go back home with your dad. When I have free time, I'll go climb the Taihang Mountains to find you, Hung Jun. But when Hung Jun turned his head to look at Chongming again, Chongming had already lifted his index and middle fingers. A small flame burst out from his fingertips, and he swiped it across the long feather attached to his belt. With a roar of flame, the belt split into two. Chongming turned and leaned towards the precipice, and as he launched his body into the air, he exploded with blazing fire that blanketed the sky, suddenly lighting up the dark of the night. Spreading his wings, he turned into a fiery, blazing phoenix that shed light in all directions. Its cry echoed through the range of mountains, before with a gentle flap of its wings, not lingering any longer, it flew towards the horizon. Dad! Hung Jun shouted wildly, his voice cracking as he held onto that cut half of the tail feather, rushing over the edge of the cliff. In an instant, Li Jinglong rushed up, unheeding of danger as he hugged him tightly, dragging him back onto the precipice. Dad dash! Hung Jun wailed piteously as he began to cry, his hand still clutched tightly around that tail feather. Why? I agreed to go home with you. Why dash? The sorrow that Hung Jun had suppressed for the entire night finally burst out all in this moment. He didn't understand why Chongming would be so adamant in his distaste. He wanted to struggle free from Li Jinglong, but he was caught in his tight embrace. He swallowed down his sobs and shouted loudly, Why? Why don't you want me anymore dash? Li Jinglong let out a long sigh, before saying quietly, Hung Jun, don't be sad, don't be sad. I'll accompany you back to the Taihang Mountains, we'll leave tomorrow, I promise you this. Hung Jun panted wildly, tired beyond compare. He tightly grasped that tail feather in his hand. It gave off a red light before slowly shrinking down to the size of a normal phoenix feather. As the snow drifted down, the flakes avoided the area around his body. The light snow fell non-stop as a deep hush enveloped the world. Only within this deep valley, small, broken sounds continued to issue forth unchecked, like silkworms in the spring eating leaves and spitting out silk to weave into cocoons, like the rising of tides, the whirling of sandstorms, turning seas into mulberry fields as time passed, like the wind rustling the thousands of leaves in a bamboo grove as it blows through, like a rolling bank of clouds and fog billowing over the edge of a mountain range like a waterfall. The snowflakes fell, drifting every which way to blanket the heavens and the earth. In this icy wind, as soon as the snow touched the ground of the divine land, it turned into water, entering the ground, sprouting flowers, which would grow leaves. When spring came, it would turn into bugs and silkworms and butterflies, it would turn into the migratory birds that would return once winter left and summer came to the mountain range, which then would fly through the clouds, disappearing within the sea of clouds. It would then turn into thin, broken pieces of flying snowflakes, which gently fluttered down into the world. When dawn broke, Hung Jun was slumped on the bed, while Li Jinglong had made a bunk on the floor in the middle of the room. Hung Jun's emotions had finally gradually calmed, and because of his complete exhaustion, he had fallen deeply asleep in the end. Li Jinglong's head was splitting with the pain of a hangover, and he couldn't sleep well. He also got up often to check if Hung Jun had actually fallen asleep, or if he was awake and still sad. It wasn't until the sun had almost risen to the height of 3 bamboo poles that he managed to actually close his eyes for a bit. But it was only a bit, because he suddenly heard a shrill cry in the distance. Yeogwai dash! Li Jinglong was startled awake in an instant, and he grabbed the sword of wisdom from the table as he rushed out, shouting, "Where's the Yeogwai?" From the dining room they had been in last night, the serving women were scrambling out on all fours as they screamed wildly. Li Jinglong raised his sword and rushed in, only to see that the Carpiao had just woken up and was sitting dumbly on the table, its 2 eyes bulging outwards. Li Jinglong pressed one hand to his forehead, feeling an unstoppable headache as he leaned against the door, saying, "This is a domesticated one, don't be afraid. Where's the Lihun pollen?" As the Carpiao went out to scatter the Lihun pollen, the serving women cried shrilly as they dodged him, before they suddenly sneezed, their gazes going vacant as they looked to their right and left. The Carpiao took this opportunity to escape. Li Jinglong adjusted his own robes before heading back to see if Hung Jun had woken yet, but the Carpiao said, "Unlucky Zhenqi, where are Emorigen and the rest? How come everyone is gone? Don't mention it anymore." Li Jinglong's forehead was furrowed deeply, and his expression was one of great pain as he said, "Let me have some peace and quiet for a bit ba." The Carpiao then said, "Where did they all go? Where's my family's Hung Jun?" Just as it chased him to the corridor, Hung Jun, whose head was currently hurting, stumbled out to wash up. Li Jinglong stood still, his eyes filled with unsuppressed pain on Hung Jun's behalf, but Hung Jun smiled at him, saying, "Good morning, Zhenqi." The Carpiao went forward to ask, saying, "Why are you once again in Li Jinglong's room, what happened last night?" With one swipe, Hung Jun picked up a piece of pastry and stuffed it into the Carpiao's mouth, before he went to wash his face. The Carpiao leapt into the room. A second later, it ran out again, Chongming's feather clutched in its left hand as it gurgled, its right hand pointing at that feather, meaning, "Chongming came? We'll leave today," Li Jinglong said. "Going to the Taihang Mountains is no more than the journey of half a month." Hung Jun raised his eyes to look at him, a complicated emotion in his eyes. Li Jinglong added earnestly, "What I promised you, Zhenqi." Hung Jun was currently brushing his teeth, and with his mouth filled with bubbles, he said, "I won't go to the Taihang Mountains. My dad will bully you." But Li Jinglong replied, go have a proper talk with your dad, there's no need to start arguing. At worst, wouldn't it be fine if I just ran? With great difficulty, the Carpiao managed to swallow that mung bean pastry whole, saying, it must be that His Majesty Chongming's chugging vinegar. Li Jinglong. Not only did you take his son and run away with him, you also plaster yourself all over that same son every day. The fact that he didn't burn you to death in a burst of flame is already a sign that you were lucky. Say, do you really like our family's Hung Jun? Don't delude yourself. The Carpiao poked a hole in the paper of the window. In a moment, both of the humans' faces turned red. Hung Jun squatted by the side of the well in the courtyard, while Li Jinglong stood there watching him. The two of them stared at each other, not making a sound for a long time. Finally, Li Jinglong said, let's eat breakfast first, before we start discussing the long term. Anyways, I'll keep this matter in mind. He then turned and swiftly left. Hung Jun widened his eyes. Out of nowhere he remembered that bit when they had soaked in the hot springs yesterday. Li Jinglong's build was so good. Ah, no wait, what was all of this? The Carpiao leapt over again, saying, Hung Jun, I need to remind you that this fellow Li Jinglong's always up to nothing good. He's never had any good intentions towards you, and now he's even inciting conflict with your father-son relationship. Zhao Zilong. You're too noisy. Shut up. Hung Jun finally exploded. He lifted up a wooden basin, scooped the Carpiao up in it, and tossed it out. When it came time for breakfast, Li Jinglong kept observing Hung Jun and saw that he didn't seem like he was that morose anymore. Young people were always like this, when they had troubles on their mind, those troubles weighed down like MT. Tai, but as soon as they slept on it, those troubles seemed to dissipate at a speed that couldn't be matched. To return to the Taihang Mountains, we'll need to first find Qingxiang, Hung Jun said. Qingxiang will take us up, otherwise neither of us will be able to get to Yejin Palace. Where will we go to find him? Li Jinglong asked absently. Anyway, there's nothing to do. The Yao King has been eliminated. Staying in the exorcism department will just be lying around. It's a better choice to send you back home. Also, this would be a good opportunity for me to take a look at those famous mountains. I haven't left Guanzhong in my entire life, and I've only been able to hear about the beauty and grandeur of the divine land, so getting this chance would also be thanks to you. Hung Jun answered, Qingxiang is that golden-winged great peng. Li Jinglong smiled. Then I've got to thank him properly. The Carpiao was lifting its bowl in its hand as it ate egg mixed with rice, and it spoke, Li Jinglong, you seem to be smiling pretty happily recently, did something good happen? Hung Jun disregarded the Carpiao's nagging, and he furrowed his brow. But, where would we go to find him? Li Jinglong answered, I'm guessing that there's a fish here who would know. Hung Jun. As one, the two of them looked towards the Carpiao. The Carpiao was currently holding the bowl, its mouth open, its fish face confused. The Carpiao asked, what are you looking at me for? That day, when Hung Jun had you go look for the others, where did you end up searching? Li Jinglong raised his left eyebrow, using a scornful gaze to look over the Carpiao judgmentally. You couldn't have gotten stopped by someone for questioning, right? The Carpiao answered, I went to go buy groceries. Buy groceries? Hung Jun realized that something was off, and he asked suspiciously, don't you never go to buy groceries? How would you buy them? Is there any human out there who would sell their wares to a fish? The Carpiao didn't know how to lie in the first place, and now that its lies had been instantly seen through, it immediately pulled out a fistful of Lihun pollen. Li Jinglong said, you dare. That Lihun pollen was bought with my money. The Carpiao. Zhao Zilong. Hung Jun had been lied to, and he was angry. How many things are you hiding from me? I'm not, the Carpiao hurried to plead. It was Qingxiang Darren who had me not say, so I dared not tell you. As it turned out, that day, when the carp Yao went to go find someone to pass along the message, it had suddenly been caught by a falcon and flown outside of the city. When it was thrown back onto the ground, Qing Xiang had been standing impressively in front of it. Qing Xiang had asked many questions before he directly flew away, and the carp Yao could only take the long trek back, which was why it had taken so long. Hung Jun was greatly shaken, but Li Jinglong had long since guessed that something like this had happened. What did Qing Xiang say? Hung Jun said. You. Zhao Zilong. The carp Yao said, he asked where the fox Yao was hiding, if it was almost dead, and for me to not worry about you, that he would go to save you. Save my ass. Hung Jun almost flipped the table over. If it wasn't for Li Jinglong's heart lamp, the entirety of the exorcism department might have been wiped out. The carp Yao stuttered out, Qing Xiang Darren knew that the unlucky, no, that Li Zhenji had the heart lamp in his body, so you guys wouldn't be in much danger. Some experiences are necessary, otherwise the heart lamp would never be able to be used, right? He said that the heart lamp was important, very important. Li Jinglong threw up his hands at that. Now bad-tempered, Hung Jun asked, where is he now? Tell me the truth. The carp Yao answered, he said that very quickly he would come to find you. That's the whole truth. They're all birds, flying about all the time, so how would I know where he is? Hung Jun. Don't be angry anymore. I'll kowtow to you for my sins. Saying this, the carp Yao slanted its head down against the side of the table, knocking it against the surface a few times, where it let out a few sounds. Hung Jun could only let it go, and he stopped asking more questions. End chapter.